All right, good morning, everybody. It's Bernard Nomberg. We're back for our weekly episode of Nomberg Law Live each Tuesday at 10 a.m. Central. And I am so pleased to have longtime friend Brittany Barrow with us. Good morning, Brittany. How you doing?
Hey, good. Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. I hope that you are back home, warm, safe, and dry from your awesome experience and trip out to Alaska. Everybody doing okay?
Yes, I'm so happy to be in my own bed, but yes, it was great.
Very, very good. We'll get back to that in a few minutes. But and I love your earrings.
No, thank you.
Read, awesome, and that's our theme for today. We are talking about reading and why it's so important in today's world. We've had the pandemic for almost a year now, but even bigger than that, in the age of social media, where looking at a phone for whatever reason or the attention levels. I read a study not too long ago that says we now have the attention span of a guppy, which which is not very long. But Brittany, I know that you have a love for reading that you've passed on to your children, and you also share that out through social media. Brittany Barrow reads. But before we dive into all of that, tell us a little bit more about yourself and why is it that to you reading is has become or is so important?
Um, so about me, I'm 32 now, and I've been reading since I was little. I don't remember a time that I didn't read, and I'm not really sure why. It's not like my mom was a big reader, but we always would go to the Springville Road Library in like Center Point area, which is where I'm from, and it was just my favorite place. I always felt really safe there. My mom would just let me wander because she would, she knew where I would be. So it was just kind of like an escape. I remember when I first read the book and saw the Matilda movie, like I just like was like, yes, like I feel the same way about books. But I'm a history student. I had to take this past 2 semesters off. First, I was like, well, I just had a kid, another baby, so I'll wait. And then COVID.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to finish that bachelor's because I want to get my master's in library science. So that's just what I've decided I wanted to do. I have a few friends who already did it, the same program at Alabama. They have jobs they love. So, and as far as why reading is so important for me and why I have stressed the importance to my kids, I mean, obviously, there's just the goal of reading comprehension. The more you read every single day, the higher your reading level, the better you do in every subject at school.
Mhm.
You just comprehend things. And also, we have something to talk about. My daughter and I will read like the same middle grade fantasy series, and it's a really good way for us to kind of connect because she is 11. So everything's like different now than it was a year ago. So
Yeah.
that's just something we can talk about and have in common. But yeah, we all need a break right now, I think, from how bad it's been. So let's read. I'd like to read about how much worse it is and like, pretend worlds than it is here. Makes me feel
Well,
better.
it's a great escape, regardless of the genre of type of book that you enjoy. It
Hmm.
gets you out of your current world and puts you into either a fictional or non-fictional, whatever it is, science fiction, whatever it may be, type of
Yeah.
world. But it sounds like that you and your older daughter can form a book club. Is that evolved yet, or is it
Yeah.
just the two of y'all?
Yeah, it's pretty much just me and her, but she read them so much faster than I had time. She read like an 8 book series in like a couple of days, and they're like thick books. But I
Wow.
did get to do a little review video of the first book with her on my YouTube channel, and she loved that. And it was really amazing to get the perspective and the review of like the actual target audience of a middle grade and um, just see what it was about it that made her want to read it because that's interesting to me. So it helps me recommend books to her in the future.
Well, and that's I want to go back to your childhood. I think you partially answered this. What was either one of the books that you remember from your earliest childhood or made the biggest impression, or what's a favorite childhood book?
So I was really obsessed with Laura Ingalls Wilder when I was a kid. So
Mhm.
all of the Little House books, that I read them over and over again. And my mom, anytime she found like a special edition or a book about the actual author, she would get them for me for like my birthday or for Christmas. And I don't know why I loved those books so much, but those especially. And then when I got into middle school, I read Harry Potter, and I had to wait for the next. I think I had to wait for the fifth book, the sixth, and the seventh. So I was like went to a lot of midnight releases and
Mhm.
met a lot of people, and it's just the community was so great for like a 13-year-old.
Well, I was just getting ready to say that, particularly when there's a series that's so popular, our family rule has always been you can't go see the movie until after you've read the book.
Yeah,
Is that a
yes,
similar thing
same.
that you do?
Yeah, and I make the mistake sometimes of seeing the movie too soon after I've read the book, and then I'm just like not able to fully
Oh,
enjoy the movie. That happened to me recently
yeah.
with I'm Thinking of Ending Things.
Mhm.
I don't know if you watched that.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a Charlie Kaufman movie, but I hated it and I loved the book, so that was my fault. I shouldn't have done that.
Well, it's you can't you can't squeeze a 400-page novel into an hour and a half
Yeah.
movie. You have to leave out some parts. But the one that I thought was the closest was the Thomas Harris Silence of the Lambs book and then the movie. I don't know if you read those.
I've just seen the movie, but I like the movie. I'm glad to know that because I mean the movie's great.
Well, then there's also a precursor book called Red Dragon that kind of
Yes.
introduces you to Francis Doleride. But that movie and that book, the uh, oh gosh, um, Silence of the Lambs is by far the closest to me adaptation from the book to the
Mm.
movie. But during this pandemic, you've got two children at home and the whole world's trying to figure out what's the best thing to do, how to stay occupied, how not to go crazy with things. I suspect that reading became even more important for you guys over this. So, tell us a little bit about some of your approaches with the girls and maybe for yourself about borrowing books. Did you purchase books? Did you still get them from the library or just go electronic? What was your strategy for this?
So as far as the girls, yeah, Jocelyn, we do love the library. So we definitely still use that. We actually use that for every format. I personally listen to a lot of audiobooks because, like you said, I'm taking care of them all day. So I'll just have like an AirPod in one ear, and
Mhm.
especially nonfiction because I can retain it fine if I listen to it. It's not a world that they had to build for me. It's just like information. So
Right,
I
right.
listen to a lot of nonfiction. And as far as Jocelyn, if she gets really excited about a series, then I'll just like go to bookshop.org, or I'll go onto Thank You Books and I'll see if they have the rest of the series or if they have other books by that author, and I'll just go ahead and order them for her because I'm like, if she's excited about a book, I'm going to.
Mhm.
But my littlest is obsessed with books. Clara has like as many books as I do, I think, and she wants to read like so many every day. That's what she does. She sits and plays with her books. But I accidentally bought her like way too many when I was in Alaska because they had a bunch of like ones about like the animals, the environment, and I was like, she needs it. So I had to actually mail them home separately
Oh,
from the
wow.
post office
You
because my
really did buy a lot of books.
yeah, my luggage was too heavy. So
Well, Brittany, we got a bunch of folks in here that say hello to you. You may recognize some names. Jacqueline Marsh,
oh, of course.
Kimberly Wendell or Wendell. I'm sorry if I don't pronounce it correctly. Ricky Simmons is watching. And we've had already a couple of people roll off. I'm sorry I didn't catch them while they were here with us live. But I've put in the comments section the link to your YouTube channel so people can click on that and subscribe. It's a growing channel, almost 200 subscribers. How often do you post videos and what's the inspiration?
So before the pandemic, I was posting about twice a week because it was really easy to film. You
Mhm.
know, Jocelyn would be at school, Clara would take a nap, I would
Right.
just, set up and film. Unfortunately, it's not that easy anymore. Clara has stopped napping and Jocelyn is here all the time. So I kind of just film as many videos as I can at once when I have free time. I'd love to go back to a set schedule because that's the kind of person I am. But um, I actually have one I'm editing right now that I meant to get up before I went to Alaska, and that it's my least favorite books that I read of last year. I
Yeah.
already put up my favorite books, but my inspiration is probably just from the people that I've become friends with that are in the community, some that even live here that I actually know in real life. They will like say do a vlog like reading books around a certain theme or topic, and then that'll be an inspiration to me and I'll be like, oh, I have an idea similar to that, I want to do that. I like reading vlogs, so like a whole week or a particular readathon.
Hmm.
Those do really well on that platform as well. Just you can do a lot of pretty like b-roll with music, and then you can also sit down and give your like real-time reaction to whatever you're reading. I just like to make the videos that I like to watch. I don't enjoy like book hauls. I don't, because I mean you can't really get any information from like, hey, I liked this book, but people love those are probably the most popular videos on booktube. So yeah, I just film when I have a second.
I know you're very busy. Celia says to tell you hello. Uh,
Hello,
Brit-
Celia.
Brittany, let's talk a little bit about book clubs during the pandemic, pre-pandemic and post. I know lots of people who are in book clubs and they centered around getting together once a month and having a nice dinner. But during the pandemic, that's been kind of altered, and now doing them this way, like on online some way, it just takes away a little bit of the interpersonal experience. But are you part of any book clubs? Do you participate in some way with those?
Yeah, so I started a book club with Jackie, who's in the we started a book club about 12 years ago in my little apartment living room, and we are still going today. Um, we do have, members have come and gone, but this current group, I would say it's been about 3 or 4 years with this current group, and both Celia and Jackie are in the book club.
That's good.
And it's my favorite thing. It's been so much fun to know that I'm going to talk to people, real humans, once a month at least. But yeah, we rotate. Every member gets a turn to pick a book, and we just go in order. And then yeah, we would get together at whoever's hosting. They would make the main dish, and we would all bring sides or whatever. And yeah, we would stay for hours and hours, and it was so much fun to talk about books and each other. And now we have moved to Zoom, and it's definitely not the same, but it's so much fun every time. Like each time I'm like, wow, I really needed that. I didn't even realize that I needed to interact with other women and talk about books. But yeah, it's women only in this book club. Our
Wow.
husbands are always like, oh, and I'm like, I mean, sorry. But yeah, it's definitely not the same, but it's still important. I think it's good to still be able to talk to people, get that human connection, which is really what reading does for you. It helps you understand usually someone else's perspective. And I love to hear the way, I'll give a book 1 star and my friend Stephanie will give it 5 stars, and I'll be like, how did we read the same book? And so it's
Right.
just a
Right.
good way to help understand other people.
Well, you've kind of answered a little bit of my next question, but if I wanted to start a book club and you're 12 years into yours, I know of one book club that's 25 or 26 years strong
That's
with the
awesome.
same group. What are a couple of basic things that if somebody wants to start a club, what do they need to consider?
I think you need to make sure that you're committed to whatever you say you're going to do, because it's really easy to say you're going to read this book and then the month gets away from you. So some people I know will only read, they'll read a book every few months, because, people may not have as fast of a pace. But the most important thing is just to make sure that, if you join something, you want to try to commit to it the best you can, because what's the point otherwise? And I know a few people in my book club in particular, they've made the New Year's resolution to read the book club books sooner rather than the last day.
The
But
night of
yeah,
pulling
and
an all-nighter.
they do, and they'll
Yeah.
listen to, we'll listen to stuff on like 2 times speed, try to get through it. But yeah, I think that's really important. Also, what kind of book club you want to do? Do you just want to do like different genres? Are you a themed book club? Because there's a lot of tons of that, like fantasy book clubs, nonfiction book clubs. Ours is anything, like you can pick whatever you want. Also, are you going to do like a paced reading? Like, okay, we're going to tackle, the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy. So you need to set a schedule. That's really helpful. And just make sure that you know, write down your thoughts, or tab it or something. Just, and also I like to go through before the meeting and either look for questions that someone else has come up with online, or I like to sit down and think like, what do I want to talk about with this book? But usually one question, and then that'll get everyone going, and they'll end up answering all of the questions that you were going to ask anyway. But yeah, I think just like being committed to it, and I don't think you'll have an issue. Um it's such a good way to make sure you get a book read. Give yourself a deadline.
Well, clearly you've enjoyed your time. So it sounds like you need a commitment. You have to have a commitment. You need a schedule. You need a theme, and you need members who are equally as involved or committed to it as well. Guys, I'm talking with Brittany Barrow. We're talking about the importance of reading and why it's important for so many levels, so many different reasons, not just because we're during the pandemic, but in the age of social media. Our childhood experiences are different than the current childhood experiences for those and many other reasons. But the thing that remains the same is the importance for reading. And I want to talk about bookstores. Amazon has been around for 20 plus years, and it originally was a bookstore. It's far from that, or far from just that these days. But the big bookstores versus what I'm sure that you also enjoy are the community bookstores. You mentioned Thank You Books. It's a place that I've picked up or ordered from, I think, 4 times now in the past couple of months. I love local bookstores, but they're going away, unfortunately. What's your preference, Brittany? But if you're not borrowing from the library, where do you find the books you actually purchase when you're not also in Alaska?
Well, yes, so local bookstores are extremely important. They're important to the community. They do so much for everyone. I'll talk about Thank You Books in particular. They host multiple, right now, virtual book clubs that you can come to. They do author events where you can ask questions and listen, and so far they've had really impressive guests. They do, when children are allowed in the store, story time for kids to come in. You don't have to buy anything. You can just bring your kid, and they can just like be read to and see books and meet people and other children and be interacted with community, which is important, especially some of the places in Birmingham, where not everybody is equally privileged. It's good to just be able to go and, no pressure to buy anything if you can't afford it. But I definitely prefer to support small if I can. And there's so many ways now, even if you can't get to the store. Thank You Books in particular has a pretty good website. You can do like a pickup. You don't even have to go inside if you don't want to, but they are open now. And I suggest you just go browse if you have a minute. You can do bookshop.org and set your preference to a particular indie bookshop, which I also suggest. It's the same. Basically, they have the same books that Amazon has for the same price. You're just giving a little bit of money back to the bookstore if they don't have that book that you wanted. I also recommend Libro FM. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's an alternative to Audible because it is not owned by Amazon, and it is the same as Bookshop. You pick an indie bookstore that you want to designate your share of profits to. And
Mhm.
so when you buy your, $14.99 book credit or whatever, that portion of that goes back to your local store instead of
Very good.
to Amazon. So, but I also make sure to go every time I go on a trip. I try to find one of the local bookstores and I try to go and buy at least one book while I'm there. Um, when I was in Juneau, my last day, I made sure my sister took me to the local bookstore downtown, and I bought a couple of books. And while I was in the smaller towns like Talkeetna, I went and I tried to buy local books. So I'm, interested in the Native Alaskans, all of the different cultures. So I bought a few things on that. I just think you can, if you go into smaller bookstores, you'll have a better experience. They can help you find, they'll listen to you, talk to you, they can recommend things. And also you can just look and cover by and you can know that like this is going to another person in your community, who also loves reading as much as you do, and just helps spread it by helping them be sustainable. So yeah, I think they're extremely important. And if you have the option, I know not everyone is privileged enough to have a bookstore like that in their neighborhood, and maybe they can't afford it, and that's okay, no shame. But if you are privileged enough, I think it's important to make sure you spend the extra $2 and you get it from a person.
I don't know if they're still doing it, but speaking of thank you books, they, at the beginning of the pandemic, were making deliveries. If you
Yes.
lived within a certain radius, they made 2 deliveries to my house. I was very grateful. Uh,
Yeah.
Thankfully, I live within their delivery area.
Yeah,
But I agree with you. Local and independent bookstores are so important. They're so much fun to begin with.
they are
Usually,
fun.
there are pets that are the belong to the bookstore, or the
Yep.
bookstore belongs to the pets. They're usually around in college towns. A lot of times you'll find them in the uh, business districts, and it's inevitably that one or two cats will be hanging around, or a
Yeah.
dog, or whatever it may be. But Brittany, I want to talk a little bit about um, when you finish reading the books, and they're not books you want to keep in your collection, and display wherever it is in your house. What are your recommendations on how to dispose of the books? And when I say dispose, I don't mean throw away,
Right.
but I mean, what do you do with your books when you're done with them and it's time for someone else to have a turn?
So I usually do like a step system. The first one is just to ask, obviously, my book club and friends, like, does anybody want these? I'm not gonna ever read them, or I did read them, I'm not gonna reread them. Um, And then you should also check with your library, because a lot of them can take those and they'll use them in like their library book sales. A lot of times they can't use those copies, in rotation, but they can sell them and help buy new books. Sometimes they can use them. It's just different for each library system. And then also we have, Second and Charles. So if you want to go and try to make the tiniest amount of credit for your books. They're basically like GameStop, like they'll give you like nothing, but you can do that. And then there's little free libraries all over the place, and those
Oh,
are
I was just getting ready to go there, but
I
keep
love
going. We'll
those.
come back to that.
They're amazing. That's a great place to go and put even some books you did like that you probably won't reread and you want more people to read it. I know a lot of people who I mean, that's where they get their books.
Well,
Um,
for people who don't know what little free libraries are, describe them.
so little free libraries are essentially they look like little birdhouses for books, and people can build them. You can literally put one where if you have a house and you want to put one there, you can. A lot of times communities will have them though, and yeah, you go, it's like a give one take one kind of thing. If you want to go and get a book and you're able, and you have one to replace it with, obviously do that. But it's also to help people who don't have the money for books. That's a very non-essential item sometimes when you don't have your job right now. So it's a good place. Usually you can walk to it. Usually, it's right down the street from you. But I definitely suggest just like next time you're driving around your neighborhood, just keep an eye out for one of those I even have one on my Animal Crossing island on my Switch. So
Excellent.
yeah, I love them. They're
Excellent.
so great.
Well, it's one of the things that I love about my neighborhood, in addition to the sidewalks everywhere, is there are at least 11 little free libraries all through my on my walking route. And my daughters for years have begged me to get one for our house. But there's one in each block going in different directions. And I just thought it was a little overkill. So we've donated our books to there and to our local libraries. And I want to welcome Chris and Mitch and some others who are here. We're talking with Brittany Barrow. We're just talking all things books and reading. And we've got just a couple of more minutes, Brittany. And I sure appreciate you sharing your passion for reading, your passion for sharing that with others through your online reviews. If folks want to find you, in addition to Brittany Barrow Books on YouTube, where else do you have a presence on social media?
So I am pretty much Brittany Barrow Books on everything. I have a Twitter that's Brittany Barrow Books. That's the one I use pretty much all the time. And book Twitter is huge. So if you're interested in, just reading people's thoughts or talking to someone, or just like if you've heard of some maybe problematic things about a book or an author, you can check there. Believe me, they'll let you know. That's a fun environment. It can, it's Twitter though, so caution. And then of course Instagram. Bookstagram is a really big thing. I'm very new to it. I've been a follower for a long time, but people take some incredible pictures with books, and I think Bookstagram is a really big platform. It's getting bigger too.
Well, how can, if folks want to, whether it's on Instagram or Twitter, if they want to follow authors or they want to get into clubs through social media, what are some suggestions on how to find those things?
So a lot of publishers have started their own little like reading groups and book clubs. So you just find the genre and even the age range that you're interested in. So if you're interested in young adult, there are so many. There's Fierce Reads is a popular one, and they have a presence on every social media platform. But also just going to authors pages. You can go to they almost all of them have Twitters, and they are constantly doing giveaways and posting their events where they'll be speaking virtually, so you can go and watch that if you're interested. And then Instagram, there also you can literally type in a tag of an author's name and you can see who's posting. So a lot of times you will find people who have book clubs, who may be doing an author interview. So it's just very searchable, very easy to access that kind of stuff. And I will also recommend, if you just want to join something that is going to let you get a book every month, and if you want to talk about it with people, you have that opportunity, but there's no pressure. There's the book of the month, which is a subscription. It's monthly, and it's a great deal too. It's a brand new hardback. Sometimes it's an early release too, and it's like $15, and that's a great deal because hardbacks are like $30. So
Well, I'm a member of the Alabama Booksmith Book of the Month
okay.
club. We've been doing that for a few years now, and it's usually a first edition signed copy by the author. And the recommendations that Jake makes are just spot on. I guess he must know what I like, but I think of the last 12, maybe 11 of them I've really enjoyed. One was just kind of a dud, but but before we get out of here, Brittany, I want you to give us either a sneak peek of the next video that's coming out, or give us a couple of your current, most recent recommendations of books you've enjoyed before we get out of here.
Okay. I will mention just a couple of books I enjoy because I think I said that I was doing least favorite books next.
Yeah,
But
yeah, let's stay on the good side.
yeah, although man, I love to rant. So I am currently reading. I'm halfway through. I don't know where it is. It's my book club book, and I'm just really enjoying it. And that's The Heart's Invisible Furies. by John Boyne. It's a chunk, it's like 600 pages, but it's so funny and so sad, and it's really, really good so far. But I would highly recommend Just Mercy by Brian
Oh,
Stevenson. Yeah, I'm rereading it right now to tab stuff because the first time I read it was for book club and I had to hurry. So, but I would highly recommend that. It is nonfiction, but it's not written in a dry way. It's like reading a novel instead of, about court cases. But it's really good. I love that one.
that's a
And
powerful book right there.
yes, I'm so grateful for it, honestly. Especially if you're in Alabama, it's important for you to read it, I think, and just kind of see. But I'm really into nonfiction right now. That's what I keep buying. I have to stop. But in honor of my trip I just got back from, I will say one that I recommend to people all the time. It's still one of my favorite books ever. It's by an Alaskan author. It is called The Snow Child, and the author is Aowen Ivy. And if you are looking for just a beautifully written, atmospheric
Mhm.
book with a lot of character development, I would highly recommend that one.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I'm going to give you a recommendation, one that I'm in the middle of, The Greatest Beer Run Ever.
I've
A
never even heard of
memoir of friendship, loyalty, and war. Let's see, the authors are Chick Donahue and J.T. Malloy, and it's based on a true story, and I cannot put it down. It is a fantastic read set during the Vietnam War era that I'll just leave it at that, but the
that.
greatest
Okay.
beer run ever. Brittany, thank you for spending some time with me today. This was awesome. I enjoyed this.
Me too. Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. And guys, as I try to each week, interesting people in their areas of expertise. That's how we do our conversation. So thank you for all the people who've joined in and the comments. And Brittany, I would encourage you to go find the comments because there's a lot of love for you today.
I will.
Absolutely. Well, guys, thank you. I hope the rest of your week is a safe one. And as we do with Nomberg Law Live every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Pacific, interesting people in their areas of expertise. You guys have a good week. Take care.